Well, I hope you enjoyed part 1 of our interview with Ms. Shalonda Allison. Let's jump right back into part 2. So you've been in the field for 12 years. How has your clientele changed over the years? Are you seeing more of this versus this 5 years ago? Like, what are you seeing now? 5 years ago?
Yeah. It really has changed. Like I said, there's so many young people that are ready and willing to come, so many millennials and a lot of young African Americans. And one thing that really, African American men come, I am so shocked and blessed and pleased and proud when they show up. And I'm like, wow, and they really want to work on themselves. And even a lot of the young men who come for couples therapy, or when people come to me for couples therapy, it's the man who's suggested it. And I'm always like, what? Like, because I always ask couples, like, do both of you want to be here? Because that helps me understand what I'm dealing with.
Yes.
Did somebody get forced to come, or right. And they're like, well, actually he suggested it. And, so I said, okay. And I'm like, wow. And I have some young African-American men that I work with that are they're professional. They love their family. They love God, and they're just trying to be better and work through some things. And so that has just simply amazed me. I think the culture has changed. So the culture now supports therapy.
Yes. It's like now the thing to say you are in therapy. It's different. Because I'm shocked. I'm not shocked, because I do see online more people going to social media and talking about therapy. But what do you think is another reason for this drive for millennials and particularly African American men, or men in general?
I think it's kind of like what you just said, because it's the culture, whether that's actors and actresses, musicians and rappers,
yes,
athletes, pastors, people, like these people now not only go to therapy, but they promote and support therapy. I'm even listening to the Breakfast Club. There's a guy on there, Charlemagne, and Charlemagne's always talking about therapy, what my therapist says, and so many people refer to therapy, and he'll even ask guests on the show, so you're not in therapy? Why are you not in therapy?
Yeah.
And so I think the culture has now rallied around it. And so I think that has made a difference in the shift.
Yeah, it's kind of normalized now. It's like, I know I have a problem. I can't fix myself. I need to seek help, and it's okay to do that.
Yeah, I have a young lady who's near and dear to me, and she's 30 and she's an attorney. And what she said I will always pay for is a trainer and my therapist. They will always be in my budget. They will always be in my budget. And I think young people are starting to make room in their budget for therapy, which is amazing to me.
I just thought about this. I think that, when people graduate and they go to college, I think for anyone listening that has a student or someone they love, a family member or family friend that's getting ready to go off to college, college is expensive, but therapy is expensive as well. And so a good gift could be to give them a budget for a therapist.
Oh, wow.
Kind of, because it's a lot of the campus does offer it. College campuses do offer it, but for someone that wants to go off campus and have more of a different type of setting, to pay for their self-pay, and of course, whatever they talk about is confidential, but to give them that, I think, is a really good gift to help them manage that transition from high school to college. There's a lot of transition that goes into that.
Wow, you just brought up two things. One, I have a niece that was in school at Tennessee State, and she was seeking, and they were like on a 6-month waiting list. And I'm like, if she had to wait 6 months, oh my gosh, so that was so good. And then I had a client today, first time with this client. She is 21 or 22. But the reason she came to me is because she's out of college and she doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
She played sports all of her life, and now that's over. And she said, I had a strict schedule. I was up for practices. We travel. Now I don't even know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
I'm lost. So it is just, it's so important. And that is such an investment. And I love that idea. Like, if you want to give somebody a gift, give them a session, just something that can really impact their life.
Shalonda and I went through a coaching certification program, Dr. Darius Daniels Transitional Coaching Program. We actually did 2 of them.
Yes.
And she coached me and kind of helped me find the wording for my niche. And so I am a mental health professional, but I'm also a transition coach, because when I worked in education, I saw the challenges that athletes had trying to manage student, and then that transition from I am an athlete transitioning from high school to college, or I played sports all my life and I'm going to college and I'm no longer an athlete. How do I identify? How do I find my identity? How do I manage that? And we get so happy that our kids have made it through high school. We don't really plan for that transition, and that transition can hit kids hard, because through high school, most parents have been their students' prefrontal cortex. They manage a lot of schedules. They've just kind of helped with a lot of stuff. When they go to college, they're pretty much on their own. And if we haven't kind of nurtured them and kind of gotten them, weighed them off of that, sink or swim. And it's not that they can't do, it's just they need some strategies and some coaching in order to manage that transition. Since we're talking about coaching, can you explain to us the difference between counseling and coaching? Both are needed, but there is a difference.
I mean, simply put, the best way to put it is counseling focuses on the past, and coaching focuses on the present and the future. Like, that's the simplest, best way to put it. Counseling is going to focus on the why, and coach is going to focus on how to work towards a specific goal. If you need to focus on the past,
right,
past hurt, past trauma, emotional healing,
right,
you want to seek a counselor.
Right.
And if you want to achieve some goals, need some accountability, you want to seek a coach. And then, as you and I know, there are times you could do both.
Yeah. And that was my next question. It's like, if someone's watching, they're like, I have some hurt from my past, but I also have a future that I'm trying to, work my way towards. So what would you recommend I do first, or can I do both?
Yeah, that's good. And I mean, it is different depending on each situation. But like, for example, if somebody was struggling with fear and anxiety, and it was preventing them from achieving certain goals, they could go to their therapist and work through, okay, what's going on with this fear and this anxiety? Is it some past hurt, some past trauma that's leading to this fear and this anxiety? Do I need medication for my anxiety? But they could go to their coach to say, okay, the anxiety and fear has kept me from achieving X, Y, and Z. The coach could say, okay, what's your goal? Right. Let's identify a goal. Let's come up with some objectives so that we can figure out how to get to the goal. Let's identify what are some triggers or obstacles that are preventing you from doing that. And let's come up with an action plan that I can hold you accountable for. And so they could dually work together at the same time.
You've been in the mental health field for 12 years. What made you transition into wanting to be a coach?
Wow. Yeah. So I started, I didn't know a lot about coaching for a while, but then I started realizing a lot of people were coming to me for therapy, and they really didn't need therapy. They just needed some good coaching. Yeah. There was no past hurt or trauma or anything like that they needed to deal with. They just wanted, even some couples. But therapy is the buzzword. Therapy is the thing that people do. But I started realizing they don't really need therapy.
And that's the thing that insurance companies pay for right now.
There you go. And so if you have insurance, they're going to come for therapy. And so I started thinking, like, man, some people are ready to focus on their future, their goals. They want to, and we don't necessarily need to be in therapy for that. And so with coaching, they want clarity and purpose and accountability and direction. And so I'm like, I want to do that. And also my license limits me to Indiana.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, as a coach, I can help people everywhere. Yeah. You and I could work together and not be in the same state, which I think is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what it was. And clients are definitely the expert. They come to their own answers in coaching. And I just think it's a good field to be in. I hope people trust it more, and also identify, like, I may not need therapy. I may just need some good coaches. And there's some wonderful niches, however you want to say it, in the coaching field.
Would you recommend someone doing both at the same time?
I think that is an individual basis. It would depend on the individual, because sometimes they could kind of conflict, especially if you don't know what one is doing versus the other. But again, there are times I think it could definitely be beneficial. But that's going to depend on the individual situation.
Have you ever had a situation where someone actually entered into therapy, thought they needed therapy, and as you're kind of going through the Work in Alliance piece, you kind of figure out, you know what, you really need coaching?
Yeah.
You're trying to transition them from therapy to coaching?
I actually have done that a few times because I'm like, yeah, you just need a good coach. You just needed some accountability. You're trying to focus on some goals. And then there's trying to educate them on what that means, what the difference is between the two. And ironically enough, they were cash paying clients, so I didn't have to deal with the insurance piece.
Yeah. I work with students when I worked in education, and then when I started my business, working with students that struggled with, ADHD challenges, executive functioning challenges. And what I learned working with the student is that, yes, the student struggles in this area, but what was really needed was parent coaching. And it's really hard to have a conversation with the parent when they're coming to you like, my kid did, yes, because they don't have any structure, they don't have any routine, there's not any systems in place. And so transitioning, there needs to be a coaching aspect to this, because there needs to be some structure in place.
Oh my gosh, you just said a whole mouthful. I agree. I support you. I used to do school-based therapy, and one of the things our HSPP would say, the psychologist would say, okay, if the parents aren't participating, you have to close out the child. And I'm like, oh no, but the child needs my services. But they said, because if we can't get the parents on board and get them right, we're wasting our time to some degree with the child. We need the parents on board. Yes. And working towards goals and objectives as well. It's not just the child. The parents have to be on board too.
I learned that the hard way. You're teaching skills and strategies, and then they're unlearning them when they get to home, because it's not, everyone's on the same page.
Absolutely.
With coaching and counseling, what does your self-care look like? How do you maintain your balance with serving and outpouring the way that you do?
If I'm being honest, there are times my self-care is non-existent. And I hate to say that, because life can happen, and sometimes when life happens, the first person you neglect is yourself. Yeah. You get in the habit of taking care of everyone and everything else. And so I have a staff, and then I have, an adult child, I have parents, I have a business, and sometimes it's just like, I want to make sure everything and everybody is okay, and I forget about me. And I used to think that self-care was when I traveled, because I love to travel. So self-care was when I was on a beach and I was on an island. And then I start realizing this only happens once, maybe twice a year. Yeah. So I got to come up with another plan. And so I started thinking like these little things. And so interestingly enough, you talked about the program we were in. We had a challenge called Rock the World with Your Words. Yes. For Pastor Daniels. And I met a young lady. She's in Detroit. I'm in Indiana. And we get on FaceTime and we do trap cardio. And okay. And we got to get back into it, because I just moved into a new home and I've been thrown off. But we get on FaceTime from Detroit to Indiana, and we watch this trap cardio video, and we dance and exercise, and that's self-care for me.
Oh, that sounds so fun.
It is. And afterwards we debrief and talk and catch up. Yes. And then something as simple as watching HGTV of home shows. So that's self-care for me. Investing in myself. I invest in myself. That's self-care for me. Trying to get proper rest. And then mainly going to therapy. And it's hard. It's very hard to get. But and then going to therapy and processing all of this, that is my biggest self-care. There are times I'm like, I don't have nothing to talk about today. And I get in there and I'm like, I thought I didn't have anything to talk about today. So therapy is self-care for me.
Absolutely. I think if you are wired to give and outpour, and you are a helper, and you are in a business of serving, a teacher, a mother, not saying that men don't, but women are wired to nurture. We are we put ourselves second. And as we're learning is we can't pour out anything if we don't have anything inside. And you're right. I used to think that self-care was vacation. And then I just learned that, you know what, just, taking a bubble bath or getting some good sleep, walking my dog,
Absolutely.
It's self-care. And then I read Sarah Jake's book. I cannot think of the name of the book, but she talked about soul care. I had never heard the term soul care. I'd always heard about self-care. So now one of my favorite questions to ask people is, what does your self-care look like? But the follow-up is, what does your soul care look like?
That's such a deep question. For me, one of the things that I do for my soul care, I'm learning to implement boundaries. Implementing boundaries is critical to soul care because I learned to say no, not now, maybe another time, just implementing boundaries. Also for my soul, wow, I listen and read a lot of self-help books, the word, listening to music is soul care for me. I love music. I love going to concerts and I love a variety of music. So music just moves my soul. Something as simple as drinking water, writing and in my journal, reading, and connecting with my family and my friends. Those are things that nurture my soul.
What happens if either one of those, your self-care or your soul care, how do you show up if either one of those are neglected? Do you have an awareness about that?
Yeah. So if I'm being honest again, there are times both are neglected, and I can definitely tell. I show up tired, exhausted, distracted, maybe slightly irritated. And when that happens, that can affect my family, my clients, or both, really, as a result of me not doing what I need to do for myself. So, I can definitely tell when I'm not taking care of myself and my soul.
I feel like I don't have the right patience when I have neglected either one of those. So I have to be mindful that it's our responsibility to show up as our best self, and it's our responsibility to know what we need.
Absolutely.
What we need, and I'm getting better at doing that. I'm not perfect, but I'm more aware of when it's neglected.
Yes, absolutely.
I feel like, I don't know if this is true or not, but are you a singer? You just have this voice.
Oh my gosh. If my mother heard you say that, she would fall out on the floor laughing. No, and no.
You just have a very commanding voice, tone to your voice. Maybe that's why the coaching program that we went through, Shalonda ended up being one of the premier coaches. Now, we all started together as coaches, and Shalonda got kind of moved up to a coach's coach. And if you've been listening to this interview, you can just kind of tell she's just very engaging. You just have that voice. No, everyone doesn't have it, but you have it. I don't know what it is, but you do have it.
Wow, that is blessing me right now. Thank you so much. My friends and family would crack up. I'm gonna say, guess what? Somebody asked me, could I sing? I wish I could sing. I wish I had that in my tool belt. I sing to myself in the shower, but that's about it.
Yeah. Now, I cannot let you go without talking about this new book that you co-authored. So I need to know the deets. I need to know what is it about and where can we get it? We definitely have to get more information about this book that Miss Allison co-authored. What is it about and where can we get it? We're going to talk more about this book during the last part of our conversation. This is Health and Wellness with Coach A.T. Moore on Roku TV. Thanks for watching.